Hello and welcome into Loftside Bantr, and on today's episode we are going to get into the conversation with the Massachusetts Pirates as we do weekly. We were lucky enough to get the starting running back, Pooka Williams, to come on the show this week. Quick little conversation. We try to talk to them just before film study, and so we sit down and we talk to them. It's the time that we have. And it was a quick little conversation, but really cool to connect with him as he grew up in New Orleans. I spent some time in my career in New Orleans, so it was a good little connecting point there. And then we go into some baseball. We take a look at the All-Star game that's coming up. We revisit the Rafael Devers trade because we're starting to see some cracks here. And there's some more information coming out. And he's done things with his new teams that people aren't already happy with, which is kind of a good thing from the Red Sox point of view. Again, I'll get into all that in a second. And then towards the end of the show, we will talk about the Gold Cup. The United States played Mexico in the Gold Cup final in soccer, if you don't know. And then we'll take a look a little bit ahead to the World Cup, which will be held here in the United States, Canada, and Mexico next year. I believe it's the first time that three nations have held the event. So that'll be pretty cool for next week. We had some up-and-comers get the chance to play, and they looked really good for the most part. But we'll get into the countdown and get you right over to the show.
We are on in 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello, and welcome to Loftside Bantr. Today's episode, we get into the normal Massachusetts Pirates conversation. This week, we have Pooka Williams. We'll talk about the World Cup because this podcast loves soccer/football, no matter where you're listening from. Loves it. Big West Ham supporter. Not happy with them right now. So we'll keep it to the United States in the upcoming World Cup. And we'll also take a look at the Gold Cup because they just played Mexico in that. I believe the World Cup is really close to about a year away, maybe a little bit under. Actually, the championship will be held in New York, New Jersey. I believe the Meadowlands, July 19th, 2026. So we're like right there. So a year away. So we'll take a look at some of that. We'll take a look at some of the qualifiers as well. We'll start with the Rafael Devers trade, and we'll revisit that because baseball is kind of the top sport going right now because obviously nothing else is really geared up. I mean, football is always there. We just went through all of the basketball and NHL stuff. We have one more basketball episode to put out not too long right after this one. And then we're going to revisit that Red Sox trade. I'm starting to see why this really the return still wasn't great, but it seemed a pretty desperate, let's get him out of town and see what happens. I mean, the Red Sox have been playing better. But, again, this is the opening. I shouldn't be giving it all away already. But then we're going to talk about the Gold Cup final between the United States soccer team and Mexico. Because in a little bit over a year, maybe under a year, just about under a year, it looks like, we will be having the World Cup here in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So we'll look at some of the players that got some playing time, considering there were a lot of what are supposed to be starters out for the U.S. national team. So we'll get into all of that as well. So, jam-packed show for you today. We'll probably have some show news as well at the end, as I always try to do, as we're still pretty early on. But starting off, we're going to revisit that Rafael Devers trade. And we're going to do that right now because if you haven't heard, a legend, I would say he's probably a legend. I wouldn't necessarily say he was the greatest player the Giants have ever had, but he's definitely a well-known player, definitely one that still hangs around the club and everything else like that. But first baseman Will Clark has gone on some podcasts and stated that Rafael Devers was given the option to come take first base practice with him. Will Clark was a very good defensive first baseman. And Rafael Devers stood him up for 2 straight days, didn't come out on time, didn't anything else. So we're starting to see the type of person that he probably was behind the scenes with the Boston Red Sox. Now, the year was kind of weird for him here in Boston, and I didn't really get into this all last time because, frankly, as an athlete that's getting paid as much as he was, it shouldn't matter. But Rafael Devers was obviously upset when the Red Sox signed third baseman Alex Bregman. Alex Bregman is a much better third baseman than Rafael Devers really has ever been so far in his career. It was a right-handed bat they needed, a veteran leader that they needed. Devers is a below-average defender, like I mentioned, according to the error column in his statistics. He's played third base his entire career, and he hated the idea of becoming a DH, which you were still getting paid the ton of money that you were getting paid to then not field. So you're doing less work, which is interesting. But I think it was a move that was perfect for the Red Sox at the time. I still think it's a great move. Bregman's been hurt, obviously, but he's been very good when he wasn't hurt. He then Devers got off to a historically rough start. It was bad, and I'm pretty sure in one of my earlier episodes I mentioned that he started off the year 0-19 with 15 strikeouts, which was horrific, which is numbers someone getting paid that much money should never put up. Now he's turned it around. He was playing pretty well. He hit a home run the day that he was traded. But then Tristan Cassius ruptured his left patella tendon early May and was lost for the year. So they started looking for solutions, and Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow kind of went up to Devers and said, hey, how would you feel considering playing first base? And it was a resounding no. I don't want to play first base. Oh, it's not how I would do. No, you told me I wasn't going to need my glove. Oh, you told me this, you told me that. So you started to see the instances where he was very against everything. And as fans and as kind of the media and everything else like that, they kind of understood the fact that Devers was told one thing, then told another thing, then told a whole different thing. I get it. It's just it's a lot. But you're an athlete that's getting paid tons and tons and tons of money. I believe it was 10 years, $313 million, something like that. You know, he was the face of the franchise. You know, he became that guy. And that's $31.3 million a year. Math, all that stuff as well. But to tell your employer, no, I'm not going to do what's best for the team. No, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to whatever. It doesn't sit right. Understandable, though, from the details that the fan base and the media were given, that he was not willing to do those things. And there's one thing that most sports fans around the country, it's not just Boston, but Boston fans look for is you give it your all. Even if you're not that talented, you give everything, every bit of effort, they're going to love you. Teddy Bruschi wasn't the most talented defensive end / linebacker in the league at that time. He was a guy that gave everything, even through his health scares, gave everything every time he stepped out on the field. And he knew that, hey, this could be my last time. This could be this could be that. So we appreciated that. Now, the trade that happened was lackluster. They got a couple of minor leaguers. They pretty much got all minor leaguers, if you're asking me. I mean, Jordan Hicks, I believe, is the guy that came over in the trade that is now here on the active roster, and he has not pitched well for the Red Sox in that whole case. Not really, anyway. So, you know, they get a guy, Kyle Harrison. They get a guy, James Tibbs. You know, it's basically guys that have potential, were drafted high, or have spent a little bit of time in the majors. Kyle Harrison hasn't put it all together yet. He's in AAA right now with the Red Sox. And then James Tibbs, I believe, just hit his first home run the other day or something like that. But Rafi Devers goes over and starts saying, I'll do whatever they want. If you want me to play first base, great. You want me to play third base, great. You want me to be DH, great. I'll do all those things. I'm willing to do that. It's just they were upfront with me with all this stuff. The Red Sox were not. Okay. You know what? Maybe that makes sense. Seemed like a panic move from the Red Sox point of view. And then Will Clark comes out and says, I offered my services to him. He said yes. He came out or didn't show up for 2 separate occasions to help with first base teaching. And this has become now a story that we're now understanding that it seems as if Rafael Devers was a little bit of a prima donna, I guess. I guess would be the wording I would use. I mean, you could also say that somebody that it wasn't easy to work with, if you want to boil it down and simplify it. For somebody who makes $31 million a year, it made 0 sense for him to do this. And when they traded him, the Red Sox got out of all the rest of the contract. There's 8 years left on that deal. So from that, now it seems like, hey, they made a move, got this type of personality out of the locker room. You know, you had the ups and downs and everything else like that, but I mean, it seems like it's worked out with the salaries and everything else like it, and now you have $31 million worth of combined salaries to bring in at the trade deadline, because Sam Kennedy has also said that he has the go-ahead with Craig Breslow to go get the pieces they need to make the playoffs. So a team that has survived up until this point, I'm going to look up real quick what their record is because I don't remember off the top of my head. But they're playing the Colorado Rockies right now, which is a 21-71 team, so there should be no reason you don't sweep them. But the Red Sox right now are 48-45. So the 3 games over 500, which was better than most of it. Again, you're looking at a team that has played over half the games, and they were floundering around 500, and that seemed like that was going to be it. Now, if they have all of this money that they can go out and use, and even if it's on rentals this year, maybe it's guys you bring in to help get you to that playoffs and everything else like that, and you worry about signing more later on. Who knows what they're going to do? But right now, they're in a decent position with all of this. And I didn't think I would say about that. And I'm backtracking, obviously, of saying what a terrible trade it was. I still think the talent you got back wasn't great. And again, to remind everybody, righty Jordan Hicks, who's on the Major League roster right now, who is not pitching well. I'm trying to look up his statistics right now. 3 games, and he has a 6.75 ERA in 2 2/3 innings pitched for the Red Sox. That is worse off than the 13 games and 9 starts he had, where he had a 6.47 ERA for the Giants. So this guy's not. This was just the salary filler to get it off San Francisco's books. That's all he is. Because he's obviously not a great pitcher. I mean, his career is 4.25 ERA. And that's over 404 innings. Sorry, you're an above 4 ERA guy. That's it. You're an above 4 ERA guy. Kyle Harrison, this particular season, he's 1-1 with a 4.56. He hasn't had anything below 4.15. Now he's only pitched 182 innings, but he started most of those games. So again, now we have a guy that's not really putting it all together. High-end prospect that is just, I mean, he was a 3rd-round pick back in 2020. And he's in AAA right now. Maybe they work with some stuff. Maybe there's different teachings and stuff like that this coaching staff can do. Who knows? James Tibbs just hit his first home run yesterday for AA Portland. He's batting .284, which is better than what he was batting at high A in the Giants system. So he's up a level, and he's hitting at least a little better. He's not hitting for a ton of power comparative to his 13 home runs this season. And then the last guy is somebody that was well down there, Jose Bello. He's on the rookie affiliate team right now. He's 20 years old. He is a pitcher, so 2-0, 1.73 ERA. All right, but really far down the list, and I wouldn't expect to see him in the next couple of years. But the Red Sox have been pretty good with deals like this. Because back in, I believe it was 2012, they sent Adrian Gonzalez, Josh Beckett, Carl Crawford, and Nick Punto to the Dodgers, and all of their salaries came off the book, and they were not having a good year. They were not doing all this different stuff that they were expected to do. They were able to take all of that stuff and all of that money off the books and reuse it for Shane Victorino, Mike Napoli, Kenji Uhara, Johnny Gomes, David Ross, and Ryan Dempster. Those were the guys that really kind of took on, and then they won the World Series in 2013. So it was a hard reset, and that's kind of what this is too. At the end of the day, we can talk about the talent. We can talk about what came back. We can talk about everything else. This is a hard reset on $30 million a year. And now that you're 3 games over 500 and you said you're going to be buyers, now Sam Kennedy is also known for saying we're going to put our pedal in the middle. We're going to go out and get all these guys. We're going to spend money. We're going to do this. And they don't do it. At least the last few years, they haven't been able to do it. So with this hard reset of $30 million, spend it on the players that can come to a contender. And I say contender very loosely for the Red Sox this year, because I always said at the beginning of the year, they weren't a playoff team quite yet. The offense was going to be a problem. I thought the rotation would be better. And now it seems like the rotation is going to be a problem with injuries. So now you're probably going out and finding a starter. You're probably going out and finding some bullpen help, and you're still trying to find some offense. But you have guys coming back. So the offense has clicked a little bit better over the last few series. They just swept the Nationals. Now, the Nationals fired their manager and their GM just before the MLB draft, even though they were World Series winning manager and GM. Not my place. That's what they did. But this all comes back to just Rafael Devers doesn't seem to care about anybody else but himself. And if that's the case, then good riddance. That's how fans here feel. They're still going to argue the point that they got junk back for him. But it's removing a problem in the clubhouse to now, okay, we're saying we're going to spend at the deadline. I'll believe that when I see it, because we've heard it all before. This ownership group they're not the same as they were when they first bought the team. I get it. You've won 4 World Series championships. We are internally grateful as Red Sox fans to get us back into the World Series winning ways. But you can't say one thing through the president of the team and then do the opposite. Again, if you're going to say one thing and then do it and then things don't work out, we understand. If you say one thing and do the complete opposite, that's when you're going to get the hate from Red Sox fans, Boston fans in general. Let's take the Celtics for right now. The Celtics have said, we're going to have to make changes. We're spending too much money. We're spending too much money on players. There's going to be an injury next year to arguably our best player, probably your best player. And then from there, it's, okay, let's go out and see what we can find. They've traded the 2 pieces that we knew were going to get traded. They got back some value for it, and people have celebrated Brad Stevens for that. I have no expectation. I would like to see them kind of in that 5th and 6th seed next year. And then when Tatum comes back, hopefully you're a team that nobody wants to play in the playoffs. The Red Sox say we're going to put the pedal to the metal, and they signed almost nobody at the time. Almost nobody. I got to get used to the cameras up here. I try to put the screen where I'm looking at myself and what everything that's happening, and forget the camera's right up here. So I apologize for anybody watching the video, and I just seem to be staring off into space. But this team has to do the things that they're telling you they're going to do. And until then, we are going to be critical of the things that come out from that front office. I think Craig Breslow has been given kind of a short leash with this team, and especially its fan base. I know I've said my fair share of things with him. And I've heard people criticize him for, he came out the other day and said, oh, well, when I was here as part of the championship team, oh, you were the last guy out of the bullpen. What does it matter? That doesn't really matter at the end of the day. There's not head coaches and GMs that were the best players in the game or, even the best players on their team somewhat. A lot of the guys that you see in those positions are guys that just know the game and are able to work with different personalities and everything else like that. So it seems like, at least for me, I'm going to give him a little bit more time to figure this all out. And I understand that he's probably handcuffed a little bit with the ownership and everything else. They have things that they're going to say. They're going to have things that they're going to do. And from there, we have to understand that he needs time. We have the young kids up here. Roman Anthony's starting to come around, hitting at the plate. Just hit his first Fenway home run the other day. Marcelo Meyer has shown flashes here and there. Christian Campbell can hit up here. Once people started to learn what he was good at or not good at, that's when he started to struggle. And now he's back down in AAA to work on it. So there's pieces there. And they said that they wanted to build this team through the minor leagues and have great prospects. And they've done that. So that's one thing they have kept their word on. So we'll see from here. But this team, if you're going to buy at the deadline, which you've said, buy at the deadline. Use the $30 million you just saved. Now, it's not totally $30 million. Jordan Hicks makes, I don't know, $10 million, whatever it is, $11 million, whatever it is, which is far too much for Jordan Hicks. So it realistically is 20. Let's go $20 million. Nice round number. It's not quite that, but for lack of knowing, you have $20 million that you were willing to spend at the beginning of the year, and now you got to use it for the trade deadline and getting the pieces that you need. You can find those pieces for $20 million. They're not going to be top-of-the-line guys. You don't need top-of-the-line guys. You need a guy that's, can give you a solid start from the third position in your rotation at the most. Okay? I think Brian Bayo is playing better, is pitching better. I think that Garrett Crochet is your number one. That's the guy, right? You have Aroldis Chapman, who's at the end of your bullpen. You only sign him to a 1-year deal anyway. Keep him around, let him go, and then if he walks, he walks. Lucas Giolito, I believe, is 5-1 with a 3.66 ERA. So he came back from injury and has looked pretty good. But you have guys in the back of the bullpen. I mean, Walker Buehler has not pitched well. 6-6 with an over 6 ERA. All right, so he was a playoff guy. And again, if you get to the playoffs, maybe he turns into that again. You're trotting out Chris Murphy, who's only pitched 3 games this year. You're trotting out Justin Wilson, who is actually pitching fairly well, just over 2.5 ERA out of the bullpen. You're trotting out Isaiah Campbell again, who has over a 5 ERA. You picked up a guy from Minnesota. Oh, there's Bucky in the background. He wanted to be part of the show. For those of you watching the video, he's right there. He's the star of it anyway. But Jorge Alcala, came here from Minnesota with an 8 ERA. And now in 9 games and just over 8 innings, he's got a 1.08 ERA. So, all right, maybe he just was struggling there for whatever reason. So those are the guys you're trotting out and out of that bullpen. So you got to work on that. I think there are spots as far as lineup for people that can go. Trevor Story's been playing a little bit better. He's been hitting, home runs this year at least. He's been healthy, batting around 250. All right. That's really what you were expecting from him. You thought he was going to have a huge bounce back year. I didn't think that was ever really going to be the case. So now you have that. I don't like that you're still trotting out Rob Refsnyder. I haven't ever liked that. And maybe he's a leader in the clubhouse. But he has 29 career home runs, and sometimes you put him in the 4-hole in your lineup, and that's not a cleanup guy. But if those are your 5, if you're going to go forward with the outfielders you have now, the 5 that you have, Rob Refsnyder's the guy that's not in your lineup every day. So fine. You obviously need a first baseman somewhat. Abraham Toro has played pretty well for me. I mean, 286 this year so far. I don't have a problem with him. You're bringing back Yoshida. He's going to probably come back on Wednesday-ish, I believe they said. And Nate Eaton, who's a guy that's, has 24 at-bats for you. 28-year-old, probably about, that fringe major leaguer is getting sent back down. Fine. That's a move that I'm fine with. Yoshida can play your DH role, and you don't have to worry about Refsnyder playing DH. David Hamilton's your guy that you can move around the diamond. Whatever, fine. Romy Gomez, again, hitting for average, 338. Not going to be a home run hitter for you. Especially, he is who he is. He has 15 career home runs. So that's that. So this team's in a decent spot. In a very decent spot. Better than I thought they would be right here. With some of the games that I've watched, I didn't think they'd be in this spot. I thought they'd be 500. They'd go a couple games over 500, a couple games. And again, they can go either way still. 3 games over 500 does not make the season. But you're in a better spot to spend. And you had Garrett Crochet basically come out and say, hey, this team has fought to get to where it is. Give us the pieces and buy in. We can do things with this team. So do it. Right? That's enough ranting and raving for me for the Red Sox. Again, I think they've improved. I don't necessarily think they're still a playoff team or anything else like that. So let's just figure out what you need this season and see if it works. Bring in guys on contract years. Bring in guys whatever. Bring in, again, you probably need a bottom of the rotation guy will give you more consistency. I think you need a back end 6th, 7th inning guy, a stopper basically, a guy that can come in and he's going to get your outs. And then you need some bats. And I say multiple. I'm hoping for one bat. But we'll go from there. All right, we're going to go ahead and gear up for our interview with Pooka Williams. And from there, we will include that in. So with this video here, before we get into all that, I'm starting it from the beginning. I'm going to have to do some editing at the beginning. So it's going to be, still a test one, but it's going to be a pretty 3/4 of the episode at least. I'm going to try to run this with him because the last interview I did with Dave Berard about the Bruins, I had echo in the background. I believe I fixed that. So, again, growing pains going into the video portion of this. The idea will be that I'm going to edit in the music and everything behind the video. And that's what I'm going to try to do for this one. So if you're watching this right now, let me know how I did. Because this is, again, one of those other tests that we're trying to figure what the best course of action is. I've noticed that since switching to Podbean, whenever the last episode got posted twice on YouTube. The one before that got posted twice on YouTube. Again, those are little things. I just delete one of them. It's whatever. But those are little things that, there's still going to be cleanup for. But you've heard enough. And I said at the end we'd talk about show stuff. I think I just covered it then. So let's get ready to get Pooka Williams' segment in here. So that way we can put it all together. All right, we'll see you We'll be back after the interview. Hello and welcome to Loftside Bantr. Today we get into the weekly Pirates conversation with the Massachusetts Pirates of the Indoor Football League. And today I have the honor of talking with the starting running back, Anthony Williams, also known as Pooka Williams, a former Mr. Football for the state of Louisiana coming out of high school, and been a vital part of that offense that has really taken off over the last few weeks up there in Lowell. Pooka, how are we today, sir?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing excellent, and there's a reason why I'm doing excellent. You grew up in New Orleans, correct?
Yes, sir. Correct.
I spent 3 years in New Orleans working at the Hilton Riverside Hotel, not too far away from Tulane Hospital and everything else like that.
Are you off Canal Street?
Off of Canal Street, yeah. I was the manager for Drago's. I don't know if you like Drago's, been to Drago's?
I ain't ever been there, I don't think, but I know about Dragos though.
Yeah.
It's the red building with the red dragon, I think.
Yep.
Red something.
Yep. I was the manager of that whole restaurant. That's what I did for a while. So when I had kind of looked at the roster and kind of looked through the stuff, I saw that you were from there, and I knew if we ever got a chance to talk, this would be pretty exciting for me. So again, I thank you very much for your time today. So as growing up in Louisiana, what kind of drew you to football?
Honestly, football was always like I want to get out the community I'm in. I want to get out, I want to change my way of living. And I felt like football was the way, that I could change my way of living. So that's really what made me, attack football.
Now, you had quite a few hours. You were actually Mr. Football for Louisiana coming out of high school. So what made you choose Kansas over some of the other schools that were recruiting you?
Loyalty. And I'm big on loyalty. So with Kansas been at, like, my grades was bad at the time, and I was gonna qualify for another school, but Kansas stayed through the storm, and my senior year, I'm like, shit, I'm still going to Kansas because I wound up getting my grades together. I qualified for Kansas.
Gotcha. So what are some of the bigger adjustments? So you spent some time in the NFL. You were with the Cincinnati Bengals. You went to the XFL, I believe, for a little bit, and now you're obviously in Indoor Football League. So what's the biggest difference in kind of those leagues, going from college to the professionals and now indoor, especially at the running back position?
Honestly, to me, all is the same as football. You got to tackle me, and that's just my mindset. Like, I always carry that mindset. Like, you got to tackle me. So basically, it's really the same. I just got to catch the football. You tackle me, basically.
Mm-hmm. Now, with indoor, I know there's a lot more motion. There's full speed motion, stuff like that. People say that it's faster. From your position in the backfield, is there a lot more moving around going on, or is it pretty much the same? You're kind of reading. I believe it's 8-on-8, right? In indoor.
Yeah. It's pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same. It's just that indoor is just smaller, and that makes things kind of difficult. But it's really the same. It's really the same as outdoor, honestly.
Mm-hmm. So what drew you to sign kind of with the Massachusetts Pirates?
Just to bring spark back to my name, the show. Not even just the show, just the love I have for the game too. So yeah, and I know how talented I am. I know the God-gifted ability He gave me, and I just want to keep showing it.
Mm-hmm. How would you describe your running style?
My running style. More like a Reggie Bush. More like a Reggie Bush. Le'Veon Bell. Consort up Barry Sanders.
Mm-hmm. You can make people miss, but you could still run them over if you really need to.
If I need to, yeah, correct. correct.
You're known for your speed and agility. How do you train to do that? Like, what is your kind of practice, or what do you do to keep that kind of agility and everything else like that?
Really just incline and ladder drills. That I literally that's it. Incline and ladder drills. I don't do really nothing else. I squat sometimes, but just ladder drill and incline.
Um, so you're a Louisiana guy, like I mentioned. What do you miss the most about New Orleans?
I miss the food. I New Orleans food is just is hand licking good.
Yeah.
So
I will agree with you. It is second to none. One thing I wanted to bring up to you, there is actually a place in the city in Boston called French Quarter. Have you been there yet?
no, sir, I haven't. I
Yeah.
haven't. Not
So
yet.
I've been there a few times. It's not quite what you probably remember. But it is very good. It's the closest I've seen up here. So there is a place to be able to find that stuff. They have fried okra, they have hush puppies. Um, they have some stuff for people that maybe won't like that kind of cuisine, but
Mhm.
they have a lot of stuff that's there that I think you'll like. So I miss it every day, and I go back every year trying to get my fill of jambalaya and everything else like that. So
100%, 100%, 100%.
How would you describe the culture of New Orleans for somebody that maybe hasn't been there?
That's a hard one. That's a hard one. The coach out there's more like jazz though, like
Uh-huh.
I guess jazz, like with bands and stuff.
Yeah, I try to explain to people like, for me, I spent 3 years there, so I got
Mhm.
a few Mardi Gras under my belt. I had to work some of them. I got to go to some of them, but like, there's always something to do. It's a walkable city.
Yes,
There's always something to do. So, if you walked out, your hotel door, any direction you go, you're gonna run into,
you're gonna
jazz
run into
music.
something.
Yeah.
Nah, you're gonna run into something.
What
Correct.
what's the go-to New Orleans meal that you miss the most?
More like a crawfish spot.
Yeah.
A Manchu chicken.
Oh, so now you're making me hungry.
A Manchu. What else? That's really it. Either a crawfish spot or Manchu.
Hmm.
I
How?
like my rolls too.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's really good. Yep, I will. Now, see, now I'm gonna have to make something like this tonight. All right. Um, what is something so far this season that you've been proud of that this team has done?
Just overcame adversity. Cause the beginning of the season we was on the other side of the column, and
Hmm.
just to just to get even and get over the column.
Yeah. Now,
I mean,
was that because you had an interim coach kind of at the beginning, and then when Coach Manas came in, it kind of stuff started getting into place or got put in place?
yes, sir, yes, sir. And the culture it was a different culture.
Mm. What's been the biggest difference with Coach Manas?
Just we clicking as a team now. Just like more team bonding, and just like more getting to know each other instead of just being teammates. We getting to know each other, like so we gonna really be brothers. So we gonna fight for each other for real.
Hmm. You guys just came off of a win. I'm assuming you guys are in good position for the playoffs now. Is the goal still championship? The locker room still believes that there's a championship with this team.
1,000%, 1,000%. That should be everybody go honestly.
Hmm.
But there's only one champion, so I feel like our team can be that team that's gonna be in there. Will be that team that's gonna be in there.
What's the what's the word I'm looking for? What are you trying to? What are you proud of that you've done this year? What is the thing that you've worked on this year that you're proud of?
Just the rushing yards. Leading the league in rushing yards.
Hmm.
So I mean that's I mean in any sport, if you lead in the league, and I feel like that's an accomplishment. So yeah.
Um, what's kind of a game day routine for you? Is there any superstitions or anything like that, or is it pretty much a normal day?
Yeah, normal day. You guys, whenever you have chance to interview someone else, they'll ask them what I do in the game. All I do is laugh and just play around, like till it's time to play, and I still be laughing, playing around.
I I tell I've asked a couple of other people over the last few weeks similar question, and everybody seems like, it's a normal day. Is there anybody that's super superstitious in that locker room?
I mean, not that I've noticed. I mean, it should be a regular day. It should just be a regular day at work. That's just like if you go to work, you interview somebody, you interview one person, you interview the next person. It's just you at work though. You interviewing.
Right. What do you want the fans of the Mass Pirates to think about when they hear your name, when they hear Pooka Williams? What do you want them to think about you?
An out kind guy. He has sweet feet from Chipotle. uh, what else? He got sweet feet from Chipotle, and he Pooka magic.
I like that. So you have your next game, I believe, is on the road, and then from there you have I think your next 2 games are on the road. Then from there you come back home for the end of the season. What is the biggest difference being on the road? What is it that you guys have to do that's different maybe when you're on having a road game?
I mean, we just need to start fast, adjust to the feel, adjust to the chemistry, like adjust, just adjust. So we just need to adjust and start fast, honestly. Between home game is different. That's be the difference because we don't have as many fans as a away game. So at home game, we have our fans. So of course we're gonna start fast in front of our fans. So we gotta start fast in front of their fans.
Gotcha. Now, last question, and I'll let you go because I know, like I said, you have a film study and stuff like that. I don't want to keep you from that. What do you? Oh, I just had it in front of me too. What do you expect over the next couple of games? What do you want to see that maybe you're still trying to put together as a team?
I just want to see us win. Honestly, it don't matter how we do it. I just want to see when the clock hits 0-0, we on the high end of the column. So that's all I really want. Honestly, that's all I want to see. It don't matter how we do it. I don't have to be a part of it, but I just want to see us win. Like that's what I want to see. It don't matter if I'm getting the ball or the next man getting the ball. I just want to win.
Perfect. Well, Pooka, I really appreciate it. Again, it was exciting to talk to you. And again, I appreciate you fitting us in just before you go to film study. So good luck over the next couple of games. And hopefully I'll be there in person for the last game. And then we can do kind of face-to-face stuff. So I appreciate your time.
Okay. Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
All right. Have a good one.
You do the same.
This episode is brought to you by the Massachusetts Pirates of the Indoor Football League. Looking for a family-friendly night out that's anything but boring? Experience the high-octane action of indoor football, where every seat makes you part of the game. With tickets starting as low as $18, even front row seats are affordable. Be a part of the excitement. If a game ball lands your way, you get to keep it. How cool is that? And then after the final whistle, stick around for an autograph session with the players for just $15. Don't miss out. This is football like you've never experienced before. Come see the game in the Songus Arena in Lowell, Massachusetts. And for ticket information, go to www.masspiratesfootball.com. Again, that's masspiratesfootball.com. A massive thank you again for Pooka Williams to come on and the Massachusetts Pirates to work with me. We've had some pretty good conversations about going into next year and the playoffs and everything else. So this seems like a segment that is going to continue. Always looking for segment sponsors. We do have one with the Massachusetts Pirates. That's why we do this as well. We advertise for them. And again, it's a great experience to go to. It really is a really fun experience to go to. Indoor football is much different than the outdoor game where you're so far away. This is you're right up close. It's pretty cool. So we appreciate all that, but we're going to get into the soccer world, if you will. I know it's everybody's favorite. It's actually one of my favorite sports. I actually really do love it. I enjoy watching the Premier League every weekend, trying to get West Ham games over here. Not that they're going to be any good, but we're going to digress on all of that stuff. We'll go over a Premier League kind of intro when their season's about to kick off again. Right now, I want to talk about the United States national team. They just played in a Gold Cup, which is a tournament that takes place within your respective group. So FIFA is the overall body of soccer or football around the world. Then you have the different kind of areas of the world. So you have the AFC, the Asian Football Confederation. You have the CAF, which is Africa's overall governing body. CONCACAF is the overall body that represents this side of the world. So, for example, all of the smaller countries within the Caribbean and everything else like that, Central America, but like Jamaica and El Salvador, Trinidad and Tobago, Bermuda, Belize, like little countries like that, all fall within the same category as Canada, Mexico, the United States. So, you can see teams that come up. I know Jamaica's made a few World Cups and stuff like that. I know Trinidad and Tobago, I believe, has been in one. So, Panama's been in another one. So, I mean, there's these small countries that also qualify with, the larger, more expected clubs or countries to qualify out of CONCACAF. But Andrew, what is this weird word you keep using? What is CONCACAF? So CONCACAF stands for the Confederation of North, Central America, and Caribbean Association Football. That is the overall meaning, and it's going to be easier for me to just say CONCACAF. Just like AFC, CAF, UEFA is the one from Europe, and that one, Union of European Football Association. Again, they're just going to be easier for me to use the acronyms and stuff like that. Anyway, I digress. Going back to the Gold Cup. So the Gold Cup is played within CONCACAF, so all of the teams play this, and it's their premier tournament, basically, within the group. They play it every so often. It's been hosted in the United States since 1991. Mexico has won it 8 times now. I believe the United States 7, and then Canada has won it once. It used to mean you would go into a tournament called the Confederations Cup, which would be held just before the World Cup. It was kind of like a stage setter. So wherever the tournament was going to be held, so at this point it's being held in the United States, Mexico, and Canada, next year they would play a tournament with all of the winners of all of these different competitions. So the AFC, CAF, CONCACAF, CONMEBOL, which is South America, OFC, which is the Oceanic League, and then UEFA. So that would be kind of all those teams would win those cups, would go to this tournament, and they'd stage kind of like a pre-World Cup tournament called the Confederations Cup. That has been since abolished, so I think they just haven't gotten rid of these cups. And it's just another excuse for the United States to play Mexico or Canada or any one of these tournaments. Money, basically. So the tournament takes place with 16 teams, so you qualify for the Gold Cup and everything else like that. In Group A, we had teams, we had Mexico. I say teams, they're countries, obviously. Mexico, Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, and Suriname. Group B was Canada, Honduras, Curacao, and El Salvador. Panama, Guatemala, Jamaica, and Guadalupe. And then the United States, Saudi Arabia. I'll get to that in a second. That sounds weird. Trinidad and Tobago, and Haiti. So those were the 16 teams that participated. I know what you're asking. Saudi Arabia is not part of CONCACAF. They're not in that grouping, and you are right. However, CONCACAF has invited countries to compete in the Gold Cup before. It's kind of a goodwill thing. Hey, one of the 16 teams is coming from a different, league, if you will, or part of the world to compete with all of this. Brazil, Colombia, South Africa, Peru, Ecuador, South Korea have all appeared in a Gold Cup tournament before. This one, at least when the World Cup in Qatar was happening, Qatar was invited twice to participate in the Gold Cup. This just happens to be another one of those invites going to Saudi Arabia. All right, with all that background and everything else said, it came down to these 8 teams. So the United States played Costa Rica, which has historically not been great against Costa Rica. Canada and Guatemala played. Mexico and Saudi Arabia. Panama and Honduras. So all the other countries that you heard from me before did not make it through the group stage. Only the first and second place teams move on. The United States beat Costa Rica. Hooray. Guatemala beat Canada, which was an upset. Now, that went to penalties. Mexico beat Saudi Arabia, and Honduras beat Panama. The United States beat Guatemala 2-1. Mexico beat Honduras 1-0. So it's set up for a final between the United States and Mexico, which is a pretty expected outcome towards the end. And unfortunately, the United States lost 2-1 in that game. The thing that we're going to look at is their roster for this tournament, because it was very much a B team. And the reason for that is seasons had just ended for club football and everything else like that, and players needed rest to recover from injuries or anything else like that. So it wasn't, the stars weren't put on this team, not all of them anyway, and I'll go into that in a few minutes. Chris Richards for the United States scored in the 4th minute to give the United States a 1-0 lead, and then Raul Jimenez tied it up in the 27th, and then Edison Alvarez, who plays for my West Ham United, scored the winning goal. I believe he was also the player of the tournament, which is awesome that he's on West Ham. It seems like these players do these things not playing for West Ham United, but that's, again, neither here nor there. So with the loss, it shows that they're still kind of right there with Mexico, but Mexico is still probably the better team. We took a look at the world rankings for all of these countries, and the United States have played other countries that have just annihilated them recently. You know, as of right now, a top 10 looks like Argentina, Spain, France, England, Brazil, Portugal, the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, and Croatia are the top 10. The United States come in at 15. Switzerland is at 19, and they beat them 4-0 not too long ago. Was not a very pretty game whatsoever. But the roster in which they went to the Gold Cup with had, goalkeepers like Matt Turner, who used to play for the New England Revolution. He's in the Premier League with Nottingham Forest right now. Matt Freese got most of the game time, but he plays for the New York City FC. Chris Richard, who I'd mentioned before, is in the Premier League with Crystal Palace. Tim Ream, who's been there, he's 37 years old. He plays for Charlotte FC now. He has 75 caps, which means 75 appearances for the national team. And then you had mostly guys who were from your domestic league, which is great. You're getting players that are playing better here and are able to at least put together some good runs. The big one was Malik Tillman, who played for PSV Eindhoven, which is in the Netherlands. He actually just transferred to Bayern Leverkusen in Germany. A lot of fun names for me to have to pronounce for all this, all the team names, stuff like that. But I've been watching football forever, so I know a lot of these. But, you had guys that are really, really new or not necessarily your top talent. Like, most of the whole roster all had caps prior to this. At least I think so. I think Chris Brady, the third string goalkeeper, was probably one who didn't have a cap, if you will. But like Zach Steffen, who had played for Manchester City for a while, was not on this roster. Evan Horvath, who's over at Cardiff City in England, or in Wales, I should say, wasn't on this roster. Sergio Dest, who plays for PSV Eindhoven as well. Anthony Robinson, who plays for Fulham. He played very well last year for Fulham. Weston McKennie for Juventus. Giovanni Reina, who's over at Borussia Dortmund in Germany. Now for some forwards that weren't there. Haji Wright, who plays for Coventry City over in England. Christian Pulisic, who's your golden boy of this national team, plays for AC Milan, was not here. His teammate Yunus Musa, AC Milan as well, wasn't on this roster. Josh Sargent plays for Norwich City over in England. Timothy Way for Juventus in Italy, not there. Cole Campbell, 19-year-old, hasn't had a cap yet. Borussia Dortmund over in Germany. PSV Eindhoven also has Ricardo Pepe, who played in the last World Cup as well. So a lot of their starters, or a lot of the expectations for these up-and-coming or golden age of American football, which I think is thrown around very loosely here. So those names that are filling out that roster were not there, which is good, because you want some of these other domestic playing players to get that experience and to play on a national stage is good. You're starting to spread some experience to players that are doing well here. So of all the players on the roster, 15 out of the 25 played for your domestic league, which is great. So far, for the World Cup, there are 13 out of the 48 countries qualified. Canada, Mexico, United States, they automatically qualify because they're the co-hosts. From the AFC, or the Asian Footballing Confederation, Australia, Iran, Uzbekistan, which is the first time in a while, if ever they've been there, Jordan, the Korean Republic, so South Korea, and Japan have all qualified already. Now, not a huge amount of quality teams from that AFC. So normally you see Japan, Australia. The one that I think is still surprising is China doesn't qualify. From South America, Argentina, Ecuador, and Brazil have already qualified. And then from the OFC, or the Oceania Football Confederation, New Zealand. New Zealand's been there quite a bit over the last few World Cups, so that's not surprising to see. So that is where we are in the process of this World Cup. It's coming up. The United States will be making their 12th World Cup, and their second on home soil, as 1994 was the last one that they hosted. And I don't know if people remember that or not. There's a great 30 for 30 on that, involving a very good Colombia team that actually didn't do very well, and unfortunately tragedy after that struck. But with their 1930 run to the semifinals being the best showing. So for me, being a soccer fan, I need the United States to do well for it to blow up in this country and be a bigger sport than I think it is. I think it deserves a lot more attention than it gets. It was tough because you compete against other sports that a lot of other countries don't have, such as football, American football, I should say. It's hard to compete against that when that's kind of the action-packed stuff you want to see. We see freakish athletes in the NBA, or we see the hard grit and determination that you see from an NHL player. All stuff created here or around here. Again, NHL, I understand. Hockey was created in Canada, so I get all that. Baseball, too. I mean, baseball has its ups and downs throughout its life as a major sport. Is American pastime, as it still is, allegedly. But, you know, baseball still has these larger-than-life personalities and people that we see competing and throwing 100 miles an hour, hitting 500-foot home runs. I mean, it's really difficult to kind of look at soccer as an up-and-coming sport, but it still is. Because it's such a worldwide thing, because clubs and teams come here to tour, Premier League teams such as West Ham are coming to the United States to play friendly games or exhibition games as their tour. Again, it's a marketing thing. We get all that. The thing that I'm worried about with the United States going into the World Cup against Mexico has been one of those countries that have been up and coming. They've produced a lot of really good talent, and they're now maybe surpassing the United States as far as talent-wise, which is scary because the United States and Mexico were the two countries that came out of this normally all the time. But again, that talent is there. The window for the United States is very small. And the reason for that is you have your best players coming into their prime for this World Cup. So your Tyler Adams, 26 years old right now. Next year will be roughly 27 going into that tournament. 4 more years after that, he's 31. I don't know if he's still that person anymore. You know, the guy that people look to right now is obviously Christian Pulisic, who will be 30 for the next World Cup. He'll be 27. He'll be 27 going into next year's World Cup. So he'll be 30 to 31 at that next one. Does he still have what we need to do? Again, this is the time frame in which it is. Because the World Cup happens every 4 years, you have limited windows to do all of these things. I mean, the roster that they put out in the Gold Cup, I think there was one person over 30, two people over 30, maybe, I think three people, Matt Turner, Walter Zimmerman, and Tim Ream, all either goalkeeper and two defensemen. Everybody else was under 30. So you're still spreading out and giving these players a lot of opportunity. It's just you have not competed very well against Europe's top over the last few years. And head coach Mauricio Pochettino, Argentinian, obviously was the manager for quite a few big clubs over in Europe, including Paris Saint-Germain, who just won the Champions League this past year, Tottenham, who a lot of people in the United States really like. I can't stand Tottenham Hotspur. That's just me. And Chelsea. Those were all teams that he's managed over there, which are big clubs over in Europe. He came here. He's already been linked to other clubs back in Europe, which is probably a problem. But he's had a difficult time taking these golden age players and having them compete together as a team. It just seems like they weren't very connected. So that's the challenge between now and then. You get an automatic qualification, so you're going to have to work on all that stuff. As I mentioned, the United States is ranked 15th in the world as far as their country, and they just lost to the 19th ranked country, Switzerland, as mentioned, 4-0, so it wasn't very good. They play Korea and Japan over the next few months. Japan is 17th in the world, and Korea is 23rd. So it's still, there are countries in your ballpark of where you're ranked, and you have to show up and compete. I don't think they have a shot at Japan. I think Japan plays extremely well as a team, has an extremely good national team and development program. They have a ton of talent in Europe. They can put out an entire team of just domestic players, and I mean, it really is amazing to see the amount of Japanese players throughout the world. But, again, it's not necessarily just about individual talent. That's not the sport. When the United States plays, it feels like it's individualized. They just don't have a ton of chemistry. Again, we've seen some amazing things from the age of Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey and Tim Howard and all of those legends of U.S. soccer. But they have trouble competing against countries that spend a lot of time in Europe. And I'm not saying that's the problem, because we've brought entire rosters full of players playing over in Europe for club football. And it just doesn't seem like there's development there. And I think it has to do with the time of where we're at. We're running into a point where, because in this country, the advertising for the bigger sports or the TV time or anything else like that, it just doesn't make kids want to play that sport. It's the easiest sport for kids to basically get into. And it's the cheapest as far as I'm concerned. The ball, you need shin pads, you need cleats. And that's pretty much, you can play with that, just like that. Whereas hockey and football and baseball, you need more equipment for all those things. Again, I'm getting off on a rant here. I'm tired of seeing an underperforming United States, which is weird because I support West Ham United, which is Heartbreak City most of the time, as it is. So, again, that's a story for a different day. Right now, I was excited to see how well they performed in the Gold Cup, having not carried most of their A roster, if you will. Mexico came in with quite a few players that were either in European football or outside of their national league or their domestic league, but their domestic league has so much talent to it that you're seeing a lot of younger kids. Like, you had a 16-year-old kid on that roster. A 16-year-old kid was playing on that Mexico national team. I wouldn't necessarily say that they brought everybody from their A squad as well, but they brought quite a few veterans of this Mexico national team, including player of the tournament, Edison Alvarez from West Ham United. Thank you very much. We will eventually have a breakdown for the World Cup after all the teams qualify. We'll go through and we'll make predictions and everything else like that. So I thank you for letting me talk a little soccer here and kind of looking at what just happened with the United States. A few show notes before I let you go. We're going to ramp up the video with doing segments at a time on YouTube, and I'll be able to post that on my social media and everything else like that of the different things. So we'll do one segment at a time. I'm using a couple of different programs right now. Until I get the process down right, I'm going to do tests, but we're going to do it as a segment at a time to kind of start off with. I tried doing a full episode the other day, and if I don't line it up exactly, you're going to get 2 different episodes out of it. And I don't want to do that to you guys. So again, thank you for the patience for all that stuff. We're working to it. Right after this one going out, we should have a basketball one with Dan and Ian going over all of the different NBA draft, free agency, all that stuff, as I've mentioned before. So I thank everybody for listening. No matter where you are, whether it's morning, noon, or night, have a good one. And Loftside Bantr will see you next time.